I need, I need, I need some intro music. I need a song, and that's how we
You
gonna
think
start
so?
Talk to Me Nicely tonight. I need some
I
intro
heard
music.
I heard you write a little bit. You could put something together. You know, I heard some little poetic expressions. You know, we could put a beat behind it.
Oh, wait, my writing is a little crucial sometimes. But welcome to Talk to Me Nicely. I am your host, Miss Lily. Make sure that you talk to me nicely. And I am here with Monica once again in regards to the children. Okay. So if you have not caught any of the other episodes where Monica has been answering questions, make sure that you check out YouTube so that you can see those as well. So we are here tonight because we received another question in regards to an IEP. We were asked, how would a parent know if the IEP is being followed in the classroom? First, we're going to start off because everybody does not know what an IEP is. So, an IEP is an individualized education plan for a child that have some type of disability or specific learning needs. The school must provide services to help the child be successful. Okay, so we're going to ask Monica a few questions about. We're going to answer the question that was asked, but we're going to answer some more questions to just help you out as a parent. So, first, Monica, I want to ask you, how would a parent know if their child needs an IEP?
Um, there are a couple ways. If your child, I'm going to speak about two different ways. If your young child is in a preschool or structured like Head Start, early Head Start program, or if your child is at home or maybe in like just a child care facility that doesn't necessarily have the same developmental curriculum. Um, just if so if you're just noticing yourself that when you have a baby they tell you all the milestones, they're supposed to do this by this age and that by that age, and if you as a parent
Mm-hmm.
start to see that your baby or your young child is not accomplishing those milestones, you can speak to your pediatrician. These are very much in line with the questions that pediatricians ask at the visits. How
Mm-hmm.
many words are they saying? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? Do you have any concerns? So all those questions that the doctors ask at those visits within the first couple years are related to development. And if you or the doctor see any means of concern, they can do a referral where you would go and just get further testing, because there's a lot of things and very often it's nothing. But we would go from there. Similar process when your child is maybe in early Head Start, or preschool program. The teacher may make observations. If it's
Mm-hmm.
an experienced teacher, who's seen a lot of kids, and you have all these kids in this group who are approximately the same age. And yes, all children do develop at different levels, but same thing, developmental indicators. By this time, this child should be able to do this. Not saying they have to do it as well as this other child, but they should be able to do it. So the teacher may start
Mm-hmm.
to see signs and would share those, take notes on what they see, what behaviors they see in the classroom that are concerning them, and have a meeting and share those with you, and go through the same referral process to outsource and get the child further evaluated to see if a diagnosis can be made. Once the child has a diagnosis, then that comes in where the educational team, as far as the teacher, maybe director of the program, wherever the child goes to school, would get together and talk about what we need to do in the classroom to accommodate this specific issue that this child is having. And that goes on paper, and that's your IEP.
So, are most parents receiving the information if a teacher, observes something within a student and, call a meeting with the parent? Are they open to receiving that information, or, you know?
To be very honest, unfortunately, in my experience, most parents are resistant to it. You may have to be persistent if you believe that it's a serious issue. For
Mhm.
me as a teacher, I'm always mindful of the fact that I speak for the child, and parents may get offended or upset or uncomfortable with that conversation. But for the sake of
Mhm.
the child, I'm going to do what I have to do to be able to revisit that conversation, because at the end of the day, I want that child to get help. And if you are
Right.
persistent, you can probably get maybe a 50-50. You know, some parents come in and they already have concerns, but very more times than not, parents don't actually want the help.
And see, here's the thing, as a parent, if you really, really want what's best for your child, you should also listen to the teacher. Um, because they should be steering you wrong when speaking on your child and they're observing them, and they went to school for what it is that they're doing, and as long as they are abiding by what they went to school for, we should be open to listening to that, because you make it harder when you don't listen to what the teacher is saying, and then they have to keep on fighting to try to get you to understand that, okay, your baby need a little bit of additional help. You're doing your child a disservice by not listening and not getting the help that your child needs. Don't look at it as a bad thing. Look at it as a step. You putting your child a step ahead, right? Because you're
Mhm.
getting them the help that they need instead of pushing them back because of how you feel about something. So thank you for that, Monica.
Yep.
Um so how would a parent know if the IEP is being used in the classroom? That's a
Uh,
hard one to me, because how,
it
I mean, if you're showing the child possibly,
here
but
it is. It's hard, but it's easy. Because when I got the
okay.
question, I started to call somebody else to answer it, because I was like, IEPs are not my specialty. But when I thought
Mm-hmm.
about it, the answer is the same. This is another instant where parents have to advocate and you have to be present.
Mm-hmm.
One thing you can definitely look for, and a parent who was going back and forth about her child's IEP, she stressed this very strongly, and I'll never forget it. She said when she would go to the meetings, because they had periodic meetings where they like go over the goals and set goals for the child, and she would just
Okay.
say the goals never change. I've been to 3 meetings and the goals haven't changed. So if the goals
Mm-hmm.
haven't changed, then you haven't accomplished the goals. And why have you not accomplished the goals in the course of 3 meetings? And I mean, these are not weekly meetings. Like there's distance, there's months between here. You know, you might get 3 meetings in a whole school year. So
Because that's
in
what I was
all
gonna ask.
this,
How often do they revisit the IEP for the children anyway? So,
it depends on the IEP and the age of the child. Some IEPs are only revisited once a year. Some
mm,
IEPs are revisited like quarterly, I want to say. Kind of like
mm,
at marking periods. Um,
mm,
but this parent was saying, you know, the goals. Why, if the goals haven't been reached in these 3 meeting time span, number one, why? Number two, why are we not changing like something's not working? Why are we not changing course if we're doing
mm-hmm.
everything we say we're doing in this plan and we're getting no results? Why are we continuously doing the same thing?
Right,
So
right.
through her conversation and insistence, unfortunately, she did end up by finding out that that IEP at that particular school with her particular child was just a piece of paper, because the teacher
Mm-hmm.
had never read it. Uh,
Wow.
the teacher, and no shade to the teacher just, she was overwhelmed. You know, she had a class of I think 29, and there were like 10 IEPs in that class. She wasn't
Mm,
qualified to teach children with what some of the IEPs were for. And her focus was really just on getting through the school year and keeping the peace from day to day. and just making the best out of a bad situation. So she was focused on managing behaviors, and she was only one person. Very often, because there's this whole inclusion thing now, where there's no more special ed classes necessarily, unless you got something very particular going on. But for the
Mm.
most part, it's inclusion, and there are supposed to be classroom aides and paraprofessionals, and in the case of IEPs, therapists and counselors coming through the classroom to assist with that child. And the school is
Mm-hmm.
not going to tell you that even though it says on paper we're supposed to have this, we don't have it.
And see, that's what I was gonna ask you. Like, well, what additional help is being done in the classroom? Because a lot of classrooms are overcrowded now. Sometimes you might have more students, too many students. So how could a child, how could a teacher realistically be able to implement an IEP for a child in a class day to day?
I'm gonna say this. Uh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna say this real quick, then I'm gonna answer that question if I don't forget what it was. But I have not seen overcrowding in a minute. I have not seen it in a minute.
Okay.
Right now, the bigger issue is kind of what I just said. There's so many kids that have a special need, and you're supposed to have another person in there. And a lot of schools will, maybe even if they have it on paper, because that's like part of their grant and part of how they function, they have to be able to say, Miss Jones is our such and such counselor. But Miss Jones might be that one person for the entire school, and she literally can't get around. So it's a matter of them. It's like the bait and switch. We're going to tell you we have this, this, and that going on, because we know you're not really finna walk through these doors to find out. You know what I mean?
That's tough, though.
Fortunately, but it's real. This is another instance where parents just got to show up. You got to show up and say, "Oh, Miss Brown is that." That's the only way. If your IEP says that your child is supposed to have extra help for the math period, and Miss Brown is the person who's going to go sit in there, and you need to show up at math time. And hey, Miss Brown, you might find out Miss Brown is a ghost, or you might meet Miss Brown, hopefully, but you need to show up. There are cases where, say, for example, if a child has a hearing problem or a vision problem, and they're supposed to have particular technologies, adaptive technologies in the classroom, that may or may not be there, or may not be fully functioning. But this is another instance where you got to show up to see.
Well, I think that question that was asked was kind of answered. Basically, you have to be more active. You have to be engaged, and ask those questions, because as parents, you do have rights to ask questions in regards to things that's going on with your child's education, especially something as such as an IEP. Because if your child needs special attention, you want to know that the school that they're in, the classroom that they're in, and the teacher that they have what's necessary to do it. But Monica also stated that that's a hard thing to do. So, being more engaged will help the school, the student, the teacher, everybody, to make sure that your child is successful at the end of the day.
It's going to help everybody. And I don't say this to say that there are great schools out there. You just got to make sure you got one. That's all I'm saying. Make sure you got one. Don't assume you got one. Go see for yourself.
And it can be challenging, and I'm just gonna go back a little bit, especially if you're a parent and you live where you live, and your child got to go in that district. You might be on the bus, or you might have to be at work at this time, so you put them where you can. So that's understanding, but as much as you can be involved to make sure that your kid or your child is getting what they need to be successful. You got anything else, Monica?
I just want to reiterate that you know, I keep referencing showing up, and I know that we as parents work, and you can't always take a half day and bust up in the math class. Although
Yeah.
I do highly recommend that you schedule it at least once or twice just to keep everybody on their toes. Okay, please do.
Schedule it.
We do it for doctor's appointments, you know, and we do it on the day that we just don't feel like going to play with them people that we work with. So, you know,
Mhm.
on one of them days, be like, okay, well, I don't feel like going to work today. I'm popping in on math class. You know, don't even tell your baby. But at any rate, email, phone call, communication accounts for a life. I'm a teacher. I have kids still in school. I know that's hard to believe with my elderly self. But
I can't.
I still have kids in school. I just got off the phone with a teacher. You get it in where you can. I start every school year by letting my kids' teachers know that I am a teacher as well. So we run on the same schedule. You know, I may or may not be available. It's not easy for me to jump up and leave. However, this is my email. This is my phone number. You know, this is my
Mhm.
license plate number. You know, this is everything you need to find me.
Mhm.
You know what I
Right.
mean? And I am going to get up to the conference at least once just so you can see my face. You
Right.
know, and fortunately, my kids' school have like performances and stuff. I'm up there after hours at the performances. Hey, who's this? Hey, who's that? You know, do what
Mhm.
you can. Just don't take the comfort in the assumption that because you had that meeting and you signed that paper that everything is okay.
That's true. And then your child will really appreciate it. As much as some kids don't want the mama to come up there in the long run, just knowing that you were there checking on them and you cared that much for them to be there, they'll think about that later on in life. Just think about it. But thank you, Monica, so much for coming on answering the question. I hope that we were able to give you the answer that you were looking for to whoever that was asking the question. If you have any further questions in regard to IEP or any other questions that Monica can answer for you as far as your children and what goes on behind the schools, please make sure that behind the school doors, please make sure that you comment that below. Share this video if you like. And y'all have a good night and make sure that you talk to me.
All right, baby.